The final topic we wanted to talk about is age restrictions on YouTube. So there are two stories which might be related, not entirely coincidentally by timing. So the first story is that Australia has these new social media laws for blocking account creation for children under 16 across a variety of social media sites. YouTube was going to be exempted from that, and now it's not. So people under 16 will not be able to create accounts on YouTube in Australia. Now, within days of this announcement, and like I said, I do not know if it's coincidental or not, YouTube announced that they are rolling out new machine learning technology that identifies probable teenage users of YouTube based on their behavior. So even if you say, you sign up with and you say, I'm 27 years old and whatever, based on the sort of videos you watch, your general behavior, maybe who you follow and so on, you will be identified as a probable teen and there will be some restrictions placed on your account. Now these are not like YouTube Kids or whatever, but for example, you will not have access to personalized ads. You will get limited exposure to potentially harmful content. So the example given was videos that tend to be associated with body dysmorphia that lead to eating disorders. You won't be able to watch them repeatedly if this flag is on your account. And there will be various digital well-being tools enabled. And so YouTube is now saying, yes, okay, we know that some of our stuff here is harmful to younger people, and we are going to apply a stronger duty of care to people under 16. And this is not just rolling out in Australia, this is rolling out in the US and I believe ultimately worldwide. And also, that there are similar things happening in the US around age verification for minors on social media. So I think this is YouTube trying to sort of head off the heavy-handed approach and say, hey, we are going to show that we can be responsible here, so you don't have to regulate us. What are your thoughts on this, Chris?
Yeah, so I think if you're an adult that has the mental age of a 16-year-old, you're in trouble because your browsing pattern and your watch pattern is going to get you shut down by YouTube. That's number one. That's my first thought. I'm in trouble, is essentially what I'm saying.
Got to stop watching those Minecraft videos, guys.
I do watch all the Mr. Beast videos. I'm fascinated by his techniques to attract and keep audience attention. I think it's really fascinating. Look, I think better algorithmic curation of users and content is long overdue. I have seen the algorithm, especially the YouTube algorithm, very quickly take me down the manosphere, extreme right, anti-woke sphere, by just watching a few of those videos out of curiosity or out of research. It's just like, oh, what is Candace Owens saying about this? And it's like, oh my God, I'm now watching, all this crazy shit. And I do think that those algorithms need to be more resistant to polarization and driving extreme worldviews. And to minimize harms for children. I think that's fair to say and incredibly important. At the same time, I struggle with Australia and their nanny state laws and their heavy-handed and unnuanced approach to the world. Sort of connected to our last topic, which is rules have unintended consequences, and they do serve to narrow freedoms. I think just a side conversation on this. I think one of the conversations that don't occur enough is the idea that there is two kinds of freedoms: freedom from and freedom to. The US optimizes for freedom to get raped by your credit card company, freedom to get shot, freedom to make up new financial products, freedom to drive over the speed limit.
Freedom to get raped by your president, for that matter.
That too. Whereas Australia and Europe optimize for freedom from credit card debt or undue credit burdens, freedom from getting hit by a car at too high a speed, freedom from being exposed to content that might be harmful to you as per the decision of the government. And I really think that there is just this balancing act that many of these countries are not quite getting right. And there are these unintended consequences in both directions. Emil Michael, friend of the pod, who used to be on almost every episode, who is now in the Trump administration, he once accused me of being red-pilled. And sometimes you will hear me speak with more caution about the woke mind virus. I don't think that's a black and white issue. I think that some aspects of it by some people have gone too far. I think some regulations and laws go too far. So I'm not a pure progressive on the far left, and I'm not a pure, definitely nowhere near the middle of the right now. And so I just want these conversations to stop devolving into like regulation bad or woke good. In this particular case, look, I do think that it's clear society is being polarized, and that YouTube and others are playing a pretty active role in it. The algorithm is playing a pretty active role in it, and we need to try to find ways to quickly minimize these harms. I think YouTube's approach here of being algorithmic and nuanced and trying to subtly curtail these harms from their algorithm is a good step, and I think it's needed.
Look, I agree with basically what you say and the positioning. And so to me, what's, I guess, disappointing about this is that they waited so long to do some of this stuff. And, where I
Mm.
have sympathy for the folks who are in favor of regulation is they say, look, these companies have had the opportunity to show that they take the stuff more seriously for a long time, and they haven't shown it. And therefore, we're going to regulate. And what I wish is a world in which YouTube has for years been taking the safety of minors really seriously, so that the question of regulation doesn't even really come into it. And like I said, I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but I feel that the general pressure from countries like Australia, but also states in the US, so it's not just, Australia versus the United States, to actually require age verification for accounts, to ban accounts for people under certain ages, is finally forcing companies like YouTube, like Facebook, to take some of this stuff more seriously, which is undoubtedly a good thing in my view. Now, I would like to hope that if they take it seriously enough, the need for regulation will disappear and the support for regulation will disappear. But there are too many parents who rightly see their children falling down these rabbit holes who are actually big supporters of that regulation. And, for me, that means I'm a reluctant supporter of the regulation too, because without better self-policing of the sort that's just being rolled out, it is the lesser of two evils. But what I would prefer is a much more nuanced, to your point, take self-regulation by these platforms, taking the responsibilities seriously and not just hiding behind Section 230 and safe harbor and free speech to say, no, we are big, we are important. YouTube is now the most watched platform on television, let alone on devices, right? We have huge cultural power, and we're going to take that seriously as custodians of the societies in which we operate. And so this is a really positive step forward to me. I'd like to see more of it.
Yeah, and as a kind of an aside to this topic, it's something that inspired a thought in me. As the father of a 3.5-year-old, you often hear this tension, this argument, these differences in philosophies around kids and screen time. We're not talking about 16-year-olds now. We're talking about 3.5, 4, 5-year-olds. And there's this sort of debate between, I don't give my kid any screens, and my kid watches his iPad all the time for self-soothing or something. I think there's also a more nuanced conversation that needs to happen about that. Our kid watches a lot of YouTube for kids, and it is heavily, heavily curated by us, especially by my wife. We pick science shows that explain how the world works, like Blippi, shows like by Miss Rachel. We also put like some of the MKBHD videos, the specifically selected ones that explain how like the robot dogs work from Boston Dynamics, and how the rover works on Mars, and how the planets work. I would credit a large portion of my kids' intelligence, curiosity, and just world knowledge to YouTube and to his iPad. And I find it enormously constructive to his education and to his sophistication. So I think there needs to be more of a nuanced conversation around kids and devices, and it's about content, not screens. And as you said, Yaniv, it's hard for parents to police what their kids are doing when they get older, and I'm not talking about that. But I am saying that this kind of black and white screens, not screens thing misses the point, which is really it's about content.
I completely agree. I think there's amazing content on YouTube. There's even amazing content on TikTok. The point is that a lot of these platforms have basically weaponized dopamine, right, to create these cycles of content addiction, right, and also taking people down dark paths. And I agree as a parent too, that curating the content and also gating access and saying, you know what, you get 1 hour a day or whatever, you do it at these times. I decide when the screen goes away. That's really valuable. And, you know, I've seen this argument, which again is a bit of a more libertarian argument that says, like, you know, this is about parental responsibility. Stop being a nanny state, to use a term that you used. Let parents decide. Now, my concern with that is that not every child is blessed with parents who are going to do the right things. And abdicating societal responsibility and saying, let parents decide, this technology is too dangerous. It can do too much harm for that to be the case. In the same way that we don't let parents decide whether a 3-year-old can smoke or drink alcohol, we cannot just say these platforms are free to weaponize our evolutionary brain biology to strengthen their monetization engines.
Yeah,
Parental responsibility is part of the solution, but it can't be all of it.
yeah. You'll notice I never during our conversation said,
Yeah,
well, the parents should be policing their kids
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's not
I just wanted to
fair.
make that clear.
No, I understand. I understand. No, neither of us is saying that. I think it's unfair to ask parents to try to counteract, you know, military grade technology, weaponized straight into their kids' eyeballs. And so the big tech companies must take some responsibility. The government must take some responsibility. And we need to live in a society that is well curated, but not straitjacketed. And then on top of that, parents need to exercise judgment, and there must be freedoms for people to express and innovate themselves. And so, yeah, the answer, as always, is a healthy balance between all the things. And what's lost, I think, in the Australian debate is the balance towards freedom to, and what's lost in the American debate is the balance towards freedom from. I don't think the balance is quite right in all cases, in all places, and I think it's worth having that conversation explicitly about the tension between those two freedoms.
I think it is. But just to, like, in this, I agree with you. In this particular topic, just to defend our homeland here, is that if you think about what does it mean to ban YouTube for people under 16, it doesn't mean that it becomes illegal for a 15-year-old to watch YouTube. What it means is the parents are in charge. So this is actually a way of handing control back to parents, because of course I have a YouTube account. If I want to let my kid watch it and I get to program what they watch, that is completely feasible. What it doesn't allow is for a child to have their own YouTube account that starts to learn their preferences, that sends them down rabbit holes that parents don't have visibility into. And I think that's, you know, it's hard to argue against that, really.
Well, this is actually worth debating. So I have not looked at this closely enough to understand what the implementation details would be. But I actually think blocking kids from having a YouTube account is fucking dumb. They need a YouTube account, otherwise you can't detect that they are kids. You can't learn their algorithms. The parents can't curate their content, and there is no lifelong relationship with sort of self-control, discipline, curation, and literacy for how these tools work. So my kid has a YouTube account. He has a kid's YouTube account. It is slaved to or dependent on my wife's account, but it's an account. And so this is where I'm saying, like, the nuances matter here. It's not about screen, no screen, account, no account. It's about the nuance of the content, the algorithm, and the curation tools all working together to help give kids digital literacy in a screen-based digital economy, networked, connected economy. And so, yeah, if the law of this is the proposed law, the actual law is you're not allowed to have an account for a kid, like, give me a break. There needs to be some record in the database somewhere that the kid can hold on to so that the kids can apply these controls. All right. Well, those are our thoughts about kids, about content, and about the responsibility of the big tech companies to contribute to the well-being of society. What do you guys think? Do you agree with us, or do you think it should be more of a libertarian thing where everyone can do whatever they want? Join us down in the comments and let us know your thoughts.